Let's get it started. Hot. Let's get it started here. I'm considering turning this into a music channel, and I really honestly think we'd have a very bright future. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Corn. I am Zealand, and I will be your guide for episode 2 of the FM Academy. Here we will be actually playing the game for the first time. The introduction was to just warm you up to the idea of Football Manager as a game, but now I will get you all set with everything you need to do to get to day one as the very own coach of your team. But in order to do that, I have to go down to the corner. So, whee! I feel so small down here. These four walls are... I can't. Anyways, this is what you're going to see when you open the game for the first time. You have a desperate need to create your actual coach, because being a football manager, soccer manager as that would have been called when I was growing up and where I was growing up, you need to be an actual person. You can't just be some sort of unknown, ubiquitous person that's running a team. You can obviously spend as much or as little time on this as you want. You can, if you really want to, generate a 3D model from your own photo, which can lead to some kind of hilarious results, but it's better than it was in years past and will actually do a pretty good job. And you can set yourself up to look exactly the way you want, or you could just really not care. One little tip that just makes the game for me, and they added it this year, is you can use club color, which I obviously use for the jacket, which is why we are wearing mustard. You can tell what most of these options are. You've got your gender at the top. There are only two, which I imagine could cause some problems in some circles, but moving on. Once you've created your person, they will be standing here looking rather dapper and anatomically correct for the first time. FM20 is the first time they have actual skeletal structure, so there's huge progress happening. As you probably hoped, this is not the last time we'll be dealing with our sharp mustard-colored friend here, who is supposed to be me. But for now, we do actually have to leave him be, because we have to go through the process of opening and creating a game and understanding all of the parts that go into it and all the different things that you see over here on the right. I feel an amazing segue coming on. Gee, all these different parts over here, they almost remind me of all the different things that I do around Football Manager. Wouldn't you like to check that out? On that list are things like, hey, I stream on Twitch. Stream a Football Manager 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Also stream another day, we'll play a different game. Usually just mess around with some of the subscribers. It's a good lot of fun. The link will be down in the description. If you're enjoying the video so far and you've liked the series so far and you want to help us out, you can hit the like button and you can subscribe to get access. Well, you already have access. Wouldn't that be something? To support the channel and then be notified and that sort of thing if you hit the little bell about when new videos come up and be able to see all of the different fun stuff that we do here at FMBase. I also have my own YouTube channel, which isn't something I do yet, but I'm interested to see what I'll come up with to do on that YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it for when that happens. That's it. Now we get to set the game up. Me, down in this corner, I now can see all the different things that you are able to do in Football Manager, and the vast majority of what everybody ever does in Football Manager is click on Career. The online play, it's been buggy for a long time, so there's not a huge trust factor in it, and because of how often people play Football Manager and how well it fits around your schedule or in lectures or whatever, online careers have never been something that were super viable. Career mode's really the only thing you need to know how to click on, to be honest. Even creating a club, it's got a lot of different complicated facets that I wouldn't recommend tackling until you have a good grasp of how the game works. Like, for example, after you finish watching this entire series, then you can create a club. And then you'll be happy because you'll get everything right. But for now, what we will do is click on Career. And when you click on Career, you have immediately entered the first pitfall of everybody that's playing the game for the first time, and that is being afraid of one thing. And that one thing is hidden by my giant head. Now that it's gone, you can see that everybody might be afraid to hit Advanced Setup. It looks like the first time you play the game, you want to just hit Quick Start. But I'm bringing myself back to tell you exactly why not to do that, because I'm going to fill you in on all of the fantastic things and the immersion that you will have access to if you hit Advanced Setup and listen to me. Or you can just kind of riff. I mean, who knows what will happen, but it will be entertaining. For ease of use, the only thing you need to do before you hit Advanced Setup is pick your team. You click this little drop-down window, in which you will find a grand total of 5 continents. There are no base leagues in Oceania or Antarctica that are in the game. I'm sorry. You can actually add Oceania leagues with databases that can be added to the game, but that is for a much more advanced video than this. It's just there if your heart desires. So we're going to go to, let's say, Europe. and Finland, and we are going to pick a team in Finland that looks like Honka Honka. There we go. We're going with Honka. We're also gone again because we've selected Honka, and we will be hitting advanced setup. But wait! I skipped ahead on my script. Never skip ahead on your script. There's another thing you need to see here. That, my friends, is right up here. You don't have to just start as a club head coach. You have the opportunity to engage in international management. You have the opportunity to be a club and international head coach at the same time, and you can also start unemployed. And this is a completely viable career path because the unemployment job center function of the game is really smooth, and depending on how talented you make your coach, will determine how good the job offers you are going to receive are, and it just feels like a really natural system compared to pretty much any other game where you'd be starting unemployed in this situation. My favorite type of save for a long time, just boom, unemployed. It's like rolling the dice without a random number generator. You know, you just get a random team, you're unemployed, you load in all these different leagues, and you go, sure, South Africa is great this time of year. I don't know. Maybe it is. We're going to just do club head coach, and we're taking Honka, and I'm clicking advanced setup behind these broad shoulders. Not really. You get a quick loading screen, and then you end up here. And I'll give myself credit for this. This is how far I got the first time I opened Football Manager, and then I promptly exited because there is just more information on this page than I would ever care to interact with. Naturally, I have since interacted with it to such an extent that I am now making this video, so it wins you over. What you are faced with on this page is the game's database for the first time. So this game's very hard to make. There's a huge scouting network that goes into making Football Manager, and if you load every player in the game in, there are over 382,000 players. I mean, that's completely mind-blowing. That's every player from the amateur who plays for the Macau national team to all of the major players that you watch every Saturday, Sunday, and like every day of the week because they never stop playing now. They're all in this game. Even all the time on stream when people come in to the chat and say, hey, can you look me up? I'm in the game. You know, I play for this whatever low tier side. And they're like, you know, I'm really not that weak. And you're like, well, I'm just really jealous. I wish I was in the game. Okay, I get it. Yeah, that's fine. That's what's happening. Whatever. It's okay. Whatever. I don't care. Yeah, well, moving. Why are we talking? I'm only telling you those things just so you know what you're looking at and how you're going to need to interact with that database, because you almost never need all 382,000 players. Not even I can comfortably load every league and every player in the game and sim more than a few years in the future before it's just unbearably slow for my standards. So before we go any further, you have to decide what type of game you are going to want to play. And there are a couple of aspects to this. On the left side, you have the leagues that are active in the game. These are leagues that are currently occurring while you're simming forward in the game. Football Manager is designed to run forever, but the further off into the future that you run, the more data is being crunched by the game because more players are being added, more histories are being tracked, the leagues continue to run. There's a point, and it's a point not on like terminal velocity when you're falling, you eventually can't go any faster. There's a point into the game where player histories are being deleted at the same rate the player histories are being created in the league. It doesn't take any more processing power for it to move the same speed. But for all intents and purposes, the longer a game goes, the slower it's going to run. I've played games 40 years into the future, and I've had a lot of fun, and it hasn't run too slow for me. So this isn't something that cripples your ability to play the game forever. But just know terminal velocity's a ways off, and it's significantly slower than what you are right when the game starts. And in this unlimited future, the leagues that you have listed over here as the active leagues, which we're going to mess with that a lot, obviously. You'll be able to see more players from those leagues if you have them loaded in. On the other side, you have this database. This is something that, you know, there aren't 34,000 players in just these 5 leagues. So if I set this up here and then put a large database on, that means all the best youngsters and all the best players, the very best players and very best youngsters from everywhere else in the world are also going to be in the game. But the game itself is deciding who should be in the game and where the regions should be coming from. A quick break to define the term region. The Football Manager people officially call them new gens. These are the players that join the game as it progresses. So you get a youth intake while you're playing, which you'll understand what that is more further on in this series. And that youth intake will consist of players that do not exist. So when I say new gen or regen, I'm talking about the players that don't exist that are created into the game. And it's a very balanced system, and you will end up with just as many good players as you had in the world previously, and nothing gets thrown out of whack the farther you go into the future. So that was a concern for me, and it's a concern in other games like this, but not in Football Manager. We'll go back to my comment about you have to decide what type of game you want to play. If you have decided that you only want to be with one team in one country, you don't want to move, then you can tailor your save to run best around that. But if you start unemployed, then you actually get to make the educated decision about all of the countries that you would potentially want to manage in. And here's where you go to do that. You go to, well, behind my head, so I got to disappear again. Hold on. This fancy little button that says Add Remove Leagues. And when you click that, you will see every playable nation in the base game. Like I said, you can add more. I need to make a video about specifically how to do that. I honestly think I already have, and if I can find it, it's in the top corner. The game will do you the solid of putting a fancy little star next to every country that it thinks is recommended when you're starting where you're starting. But I would like to expand upon that. Say you're starting unemployed and you're like, go down the list. Okay, where would I possibly want to manage? Boo! Ha! Didn't scare anybody. There's going to be that one guy that was like, whoa! Yeah, you know, you're feeling these teams. Norway, Russia, Portugal, Romania, Serbia. So these are the countries. Now that I've gone through and selected everything, these are the countries that you could potentially want to manage in. So what you want to do is go ahead and then click confirm. It's behind my head, but you should be able to find that rather easily. And now you can see that all of these countries have come up for you. You then have the option, and I don't know why the game doesn't do this right away, to adjust all the way to the bottom league or not. You can adjust to the middle league. You can just, maybe I just want the top league to be playable in the game, and then the other two leagues are not going to be playable. And I wish you could parse between leagues in a single country with what I'm about to tell you next, because I think that would make it even cooler. Because there's this thing where a league doesn't have to be playable, but it can also be view only. And you do that by hitting here. When a league is view only, you obviously can't manage in it, but it cuts down the number of players in the league considerably, maintaining enough of the players to run the league as a simulation and show you the actual results. And putting a league on view only will also give you more players to choose from that league than just opening up that league in a database or that country in a database, where you can still get players from there, but you don't necessarily have access to the league history or anything, and the league is happening, but very limited manner if it's not loaded into the game as at least view only. Like a league that's not even view only will produce teams into a Champions League or something, but most of the players on the team are not going to be real players, they're going to be game-generated players, and that usually makes those teams worse. But once you've gone through and you've selected what level league in each of these places you want, and say in Spain you want the 3rd division, in Switzerland you just want the 1st division, whatever, you can, to your heart's content, mess around with it. Then if you have the processing power left over, feel free to go through and add every other league in the game as just view only, because that will not add too much more to the processing load, but it will give it a much more realistic feel, even down in Malaysia if the league is running, and it will give you just a few more player options to sign those guys once the game gets started. If you don't feel like that, or don't even feel like wasting the time to go through and add those leagues and then make them view only, that is perfectly fine, but it is something that can be useful. If breaking down how to create these games is really interesting to you, I actually made a really in-depth video where I tested a bunch of different ways to set up a save and figured out the best one for each level of processing power. I'd recommend checking that out. I pointed up there like 4 times. Eventually, I'm going to make it pop up there, and you can go ahead and give it a click and learn to your heart's content. It was a really engaging test. Engaging test. Is a test ever engaging? It was cool. We found the answers, you know. One tidbit from that video that I did learn is even if you want to just manage with one team, and that's the team you're going to manage with, and screw everybody else, I would still recommend keeping a lot of the major nations as playable, whatever you consider a major nation, because a playable league is just going to produce more players into the game. And if you just have view only on every other league that's not the one you're playing in, then it will actually limit the realism somewhat, because those major nations aren't producing full youth intakes. As for the database size, I would recommend almost always going large. Even if you're going over 125,000 players, the game will still run. It's not a crash risk. If you go to 382,000 players, the game's not a crash risk. It's just going to take forever for things to happen. And if you add extra players on top of it, you click this drop down arrow and go to advanced, and then you can just break it down to your heart's content. And I go over that obviously in the video I talked about. The last little bit of these things at the bottom, You're really not going to need to touch them. I disable player attribute masking for videos that I make so that I don't have to go scouting people, but it's the fog of war basically that makes you need scouts. So I would recommend just unticking it. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory, and then once my head disappears again, we can open the game and get to our last step today. The start time is always, unless you're unemployed, going to sync up with the early preseason for whatever league you're in. We're in Finland, which is a summer league, which means the early preseason is December for us. We're just going to go ahead and pick that as a start date and click Start Game. Yes, ma'am, sir, or otherwise. Here we go, and the database actually, it'll take a little while to set up. Hey there, while we're waiting, I do have something to say to condense everything that I just talked about. There is a comfort zone for everybody playing this game. Some people can play it at a really slow pace where simming through a day takes quite a while, and that's comfortable for them because they have every player in the game loaded. And then there's other people, somewhat like myself, where they like a little more speed and to have it streamlined so that you can get through, a couple of months in one real session of gameplay. So you have to find what's comfortable for you in terms of the speed and number of players balance. The speed and database, that's the juxtaposition. You just have to find your spot. We've loaded in, hallelujah. You are confronted with the same dashing individual that you created earlier, and all you have to do is click Use Profile at the bottom. That's what we're going to do, and you are faced with something that at first glance looks unbelievably confusing. I'll let you in on a little tip that will probably save you a lot of time trying to figure out what all of these different things mean. These are coaching attributes and mental attributes. I'm going to make more detailed videos in the future, particularly about coaching stuff. I haven't done any really videos about coaching yet, so you won't be able to find them. Sorry. Hopefully you're watching this at a point where you will be able to find them, actually. The little tip, there are buttons right here that suggested coaching badge for this level. And that basically, if you're coaching a team, this is effective. If you're unemployed, it isn't. And then you can just select whatever badge you want. The badge will affect how many attribute points you have to distribute, worth noting. But clicking the Suggest button will balance the competition for you. So Honka is not great, but it's good. So you end up a pretty decent coach, and you can subtract and add to other areas. I'll let the more detailed advanced videos do more of the talking about what coaching attributes are good in particular, and leaving it balanced is going to be perfectly fine. But I will leave you with this one little piece of advice, that if you are a smaller team, not necessarily Honka small, but even smaller than that, you're not going to have a lot of other coaches. So you want your coaching ability to be balanced because you'll be coaching a lot of different areas. Whereas if you are the coach of a very, very good team, you just decided to start with Barcelona or whatever, you can lock in and be more concentrated in certain areas. It confirms behind my head again, but if you go ahead and click that, you will be able to start playing, and I do declare that that is exactly what will get you to your first day in the game. You'll have to go through a board meeting right here where you set down your club vision and everything that you're going to expect in the future, or they at least tell you what's going to be expected from you in the future, and you can negotiate it later. Ooh, what a teaser. But here in the Honka boardroom is where I leave you for episode 2. I look forward to making the next FM Academy video for you. This is already turning into a lot of fun to break it down to this level, and I hope it's going to be a lot of help for everybody involved. Please remember to check out those more detailed videos that I talked about earlier if that's something you're interested in exploring more, like the best possible way to set up a game. I'm pretty obsessive about that stuff, so you might be too. That's good for you. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, follow my personal YouTube, join my Discord, join FMBase's Discord, and whatever other links down in the description, because it'll make your life better or something. My name's Zealand. Hope this helped. I'll see you around.